We just got a major report on Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski and his feelings about being the head coach in Cleveland. You're not going to want to miss this one, folks. So welcome into the Browns Report. I am your host, Joey O'Donoghue. Stefanski, been in the news a lot lately. A lot of Browns fans angry about him. So you're not going to want to miss any news that surrounds Kevin Stefanski going forward. When there is Browns breaking news, if this man gets fired, if this man steps down, we're going to make a video ASAP. Everything Cleveland Browns, big news, we hop on here. So hit the subscribe button so you do not miss it. You want to be a part of this family, be in the know, and be the first to know everything with the Cleveland Browns. Okay, here is the report from Albert Breer about Stefanski. The one thing that would be really frustrating for me if I were the coach in Cleveland is you've been trying to make decisions for football reasons and no one will accept them. I can tell you, just knowing the number of people that I know who work there, that the quarterback situation was handled this year over the last 6, 7, 8 months in a way that was based solely on how the guys were performing in practice. It makes Stefanski look bad now because Shedeur played well. If you're Kevin and you're making all these decisions based on football decisions, and you've made a lot of other decisions over the years, and they're constantly second-guessed this way, and it's constantly a circus, well, would you be sick of it? Has this just become, you know what? This hasn't worked out for either one of us over these last couple years, so maybe it's just time. Breer is indicating and insinuating that Stefanski wants out of Cleveland. You know what? He does look a little bit fed up. He does look a little uninterested. And I know part of it is just his stoic personality, right? That even-keel approach he takes to everything. But he's been shaking his head a lot at the press conferences, looks frustrated, upset, and he is being just slandered in the media by lots of different Browns fans, Shedeur fans, you name it. And so I kind of understand where this report is coming from. And if you look at this guy over the past 2 years in Cleveland, I mean, his record's 6-24, folks. You want out? We want you out. The last 2 years have been awful to endure. He has a losing record as a head coach of the Cleveland Browns. And by the way, the past 2 years, he's given up play calling. Ken Dorsey last year, Tommy Rees this year. Like, that doesn't tell you he's starting to get a little more uninterested. The hate is getting to him. I mean, back-to-back years we said give up the play calling, and he did. He's also a man of few words in all press conferences, and you're starting to see the questions that he's gotten this year. I honestly think it's more fun to listen to the reporters than it is to Kevin Stefanski talk. Tony Grossi was going at him in his last press conference. First question he asked was it a mistake to not start Shedeur earlier? You know, Kevin, just look at him. He's looking fed up with it. He gets asked it all the time, and rightfully so, by the way. Stefanski says to that, I'm not going to get into those type of things. My focus isn't there. That's what he responds every single time. Same approach. Understand the question. My focus isn't there right now. We have to be better. I have to coach better. But when are you going to coach better, Stefanski? You tell us it every week. There's no doubt about that. And the amount of questions, I mean, there's many examples of questions that, honestly, I could see from Kevin Stefanski's perspective would be frustrating. They're warranted, but Stefanski seems like he's getting fed up with this whole situation. They were pressing him about the 2-point conversion play last week with Quinshon Judkins. That interaction was great. Grossi was like, has Judkins practiced this play before? Stefanski's like, yes. He goes, how do you look? Stefanski's like, listen, Tony, we did the play and it didn't work. Like, I love it. You need to ask these questions. And Stefanski, just same answers. He's getting fed up with it. They ask him about Shedeur Sanders every single week this season when he was the third string, the fourth string, the second string. And then eventually, finally, he is the starting quarterback. But this is a guy that Stefanski did not want to start. A guy that he picked Dylan Gabriel over, and the media asks him about Shedeur every single week. It's just starting to seem like this is not a fit. We don't want him. The fans are fed up with him. The Shedeur fans hate Stefanski more than anything. And Stefanski never wanted to turn to Shedeur, and now here we are. Shedeur's the starter. Also, Shedeur Sanders was asked about Stefanski sabotaging him at the press conference. This is obviously rumors circulating around Twitter. It made its way into Browns media, and they asked Shedeur if he's heard the rumors that his head coach is sabotaging him. Now, Shedeur handled it well. He was like, come on, you're trying to get me in trouble. he didn't really want to answer it. He didn't want to go down that route. And I think Shedeur handled it very professionally. He has been answering these questions with really great PR training, to be honest. And so you look at, these are just 3 examples, but it's been every single week. There's questions that Stefanski shakes his head at, doesn't want to answer clearly. It's just part of being part of the Cleveland media and everything that's going on right now. And guess what? Kevin Stefanski, he was wrong. He did pick Dillon Gabriel. He did think Gabriel was the quarterback that gave him the better chance to win, the quarterback they drafted ahead of Shedeur. I don't think you can find a single draft analyst that had Dillon Gabriel rated ahead of Shedeur Sanders. But the Cleveland Browns, I guess, did. I really do wonder if they didn't draft Gabriel in the 3rd, how far would he have fallen? Because what other teams had him that high on the draft board? And then when Shedeur was still available in the 5th, it was a no-brainer. And it's being proven right now, the difference between the 2 quarterbacks. I mean, how are people who don't play football, who don't scout, how were we right and Stefanski and the Browns were wrong? It was obvious to the eye. It was obvious to the analysts that Shedeur Sanders was a better prospect coming out of college than Dillon Gabriel. The arm strength, the mobility, the size, it's all there. And now you can't even question it when he goes out and has 4 total touchdowns, when he goes out and has more deep shots than we've had all season long. I mean, guys, this is where we're at, and this is the guy that Stefanski refused to turn to. It took Dillon Gabriel going into concussion protocol. To the first part of Breer's report, it is making Stefanski look bad. It is that Shedeur's outplaying the quarterback they tried to put all their faith in. And that's the state of things right now for the Cleveland Browns. Do not forget that Josina Anderson told us a couple weeks ago that there is a longtime NFL head coach out there who is considering wanting a change of scenery and has told others of these thoughts. If he acts on those lingering feelings, his departure would clearly add to the list of vacancies. And Josina's had a couple good head coaching reports in years past, and so there was a lot of speculation that another one wants out. If that's Kevin Stefanski, then get the hell out. We don't want you either. I don't want guys on my organization, on my football team that don't want to be there, that look uninterested. And you know what? I think with young quarterbacks, with all the young players in Cleveland, I think you need a guy that brings a little bit more energy, a little more fire. Stefanski does not do that. He doesn't hand out game balls when the rookie quarterbacks got their first wins. He's not lighting the fire, the moxie, the charisma, that the style of quarterback that Shedeur Sanders is. I think it's time for a change. But what do you think is most likely, Browns fans? You think it's most likely Stefanski gets fired? Type F. If you think it's more likely he stays next year, type S. And finally, if this is a mutual part ways thing, if Stefanski really does want out of Cleveland, if this report is true, and everybody wants Stefanski out of Cleveland, and Haslam's going to pull the trigger, maybe it's like what happened with Belichick and the Patriots. They come out and they say, the Cleveland Browns are mutually parting ways with Kevin Stefanski. Let me know what you think is most likely. You can type M if you think that is the case. I'm going to tell you what I think is most likely and why I think that. But before we do, I want to give a special shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. It is the holiday season, the best time of year for sports. Bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It is all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there is one place where it feels good to be right. Prize Picks. I love this app, man. It's a lot of fun. I win money doing it. And because I cover the Browns, it helps me know what picks to make. When the coaches said they have no problem letting Shedeur rip it, I picked the more last week, and it worked against the Titans. And new feature alert. Prize Picks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. I'm trying to cash in. I make a lineup every single week, and you know what I got to do. The more on Shedeur Sanders, more than half a passing touchdown. He had 3 last week, and more than 149.5 passing yards. Those are my goblin plays. And finally, Jake Bates, more than half a field goal made. One of the better kickers in the NFL this year and last year. If you want to make a lineup just like that one, you got to download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS. You get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS. You get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Kevin Stefanski's offenses, well, they haven't been right the past 2 years. 15.2 points per game in 2024. It's worse than the NFL, folks. That was last season. This season, hey, it's a little bit better. 29th? Not going to cut it. 17 points per game now after the Titans game. And so, like I said, gave up play calling in both of those years. Offenses look stagnant. Defense looked great this year and in 2023. And we're not capitalizing on the other end that Stefanski's supposed to be the offensive guru, the guy in charge, the play caller to start the year, has to give it up. It's not working. And clearly, they don't have a perfect relationship. Shedeur Sanders and Kevin Stefanski, that is. I mean, even when Shedeur answered that question about the sabotage and his relationship with Stefanski, he didn't say, yeah, we're great. We have a great relationship. He says verbatim, yeah, he's a coach. My coach tells me what to do. It's a working relationship. This was not Stefanski's pick. It was not Shedeur. He was forced to start him. And you know what makes it look worse for Kevin Stefanski? The Browns' offense looked better than it has all season long. I know it was against the Titans. But you know what the case was last week? It was the quarterback that Stefanski didn't want, and Stefanski didn't call the plays. And all of a sudden, we have a quarterback throw 3 touchdown passes, run a touchdown in, 364 yards. Are you kidding me? Best performance we've had all year. It's a bad look for you, Kevin Stefanski. You were wrong. You're going to have to own that. And so my take on the matter, I do see Stefanski and the Browns parting ways eventually, especially if they get off to a bad start next year. That's it. You're done. It would be weird right now with just 4 games left. I don't foresee them making the fire, next Monday morning, let's say. I think you're riding out the rest of this year. Jimmy Haslam has defended him in years past, saying he's been dealt a bad hand with the Watson deal and making the most of it. But also Jimmy Haslam is a ratings guy. Yeah, he does buy in a little bit to what all the fans are screaming about, and that's why everybody's screaming for Shedeur to start. I was screaming for it on the show. I bet you there were conversations from up top saying, hey, you better not go back to Dillon Gabriel after Shedeur started 1-0 and beat the Raiders that week when he made his first career start. And so you have to factor that into the equation. If everybody is screaming that Stefanski's got to go and Shedeur Sanders is your quarterback next year, right? He showed flashes in the Titans game. You cannot argue that. And so these next 4 games, I think you're going to see a little bit more. I think he's going to be in contention to start day 1 next year and really say, hey, I'm your guy. Build around me. If that's the case, well, then why would the head coach that didn't want him still be in Cleveland? And so I think you are really looking at a case of next year, last possible year for Kevin Stefanski. If they give him that year, it's the last one. It's your last chance, and then I think you are out of here, Kevin. That's my take on the matter. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, but I think it is going to happen inevitably. Maximum of 1 year left for Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland is my take on the matter. What's yours, though? How long do you think Stefanski has left as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns? Comment down below how many more games, weeks, months, or years you're giving Kevin Stefanski as a member of the Cleveland Browns coaching staff. And a lot of people want to know, well, if Kevin's out, then who's going to be the head coach? Hit that sub button because I'm ready to make a Kevin Stefanski replacement video. I'm going to give you all the names that are available right now for the Cleveland Browns. We have major reports of some coaches that are going to be heavily coveted in the coaching search this offseason, so don't miss that one. Hit the subscribe button, turn those notifications on to see who Cleveland could realistically go to if Stefanski is let go. Appreciate you guys tuning into this edition of the show with me. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.